Welcome to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld. My guests today are John Calhoun and Rachel Posman. Hey, welcome.
Hey, Lou.
Hi, good to be here.
It's great to have you both. I'm really excited because, among other things that you've been doing to help build the practice of design operations over the last bunch of years, you two have just finished up a new book for Rosenfeld Media called The Design Conductors, your essential guide to design operations, coming out in October, and I'm really excited by that. We're going to be talking about the book extensively in just a moment, but let me go ahead and introduce Rachel and John. I got to know them both when they gave a presentation at the DesignOps Summit. Oh gosh, it's got to be at least 3 years ago now, maybe even longer. 4 years, 2020. It's 2024 now. And I remember their presentation just bowled people over so much that, as I recall, someone tweeted out that, Lou, you should sign them to write a book. And, that's how books get made, right? Someone tweets something to a publisher, and 4 years later, there's a book. Okay. So you've both been really involved in the growth of design operations. Rachel and John both are senior DesignOps people at Salesforce. Rachel has been at a number of other really interesting organizations that have really led in the space, from Uber Eats to Cap One, Adaptive Path. And in a past life, she was a ballet dancer, which I think is really interesting. John, also again at Salesforce, previously was at Electronic Arts in the game industry as a game designer producer. Did that for 17 years. So that's a really interesting path into design operations, like many are, but they're all uniquely interesting. And one of the things that, John, I managed to extract from you, wasn't a past job, but that your hobby is playing bass. And the reason I'm getting at this is you both wrote a book with a musical metaphor, The Design Conductors. So let's jump right in. What's so musical about design operations?
Well, one of the things that we talk about in the book is orchestration, right? And when we think about leading design operations, it's more about how we're moving the pieces and coordinating groups of people so that everyone's operating in harmony. So orchestration is a big theme of design operations, and orchestration is a big theme in music. And so one of the things that we thought that we could probably inject into this book was a little bit of a musical motif to kind of put a through line through it all. But it really kind of comes back to the theme of orchestration. We also have themes of optimization, et cetera, in design operations. But, I'm a musician. Rachel's also an artist. And so we both kind of felt it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think the other side of that is music is about the art too. And design ops is not just operations. It's using design, which is the creative and artistic field, to apply it to operations. So it's the merging of both. And so music was a good metaphor for the book.
So this does, okay, so you're in a way designing design.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and my emotional level, my heartbeat and my blood pressure just went way up, because as a person who is not particularly artistic or musical, but feels he is creative, I have for years gotten really annoyed at the traditional creatives who look down upon this sort of artistic pursuit of other non-traditional areas, like building a business or building a community or engaging in operations. I love that you have tried to underline the creative artistic aspects of operations. Is that something that you hear a lot or feel a lot of pushback on when you bring that metaphor to designers, let's say, who feel like, well, wait a minute, you're not really designing, you're not really creative, you're operations people. Do you get that?
I think that people that may not have worked with design operations, or it's their first time working with design operations, might feel that way at first, but most design ops folks have some background in design, so they understand design deeply. So once you start talking to them and they're speaking your language, and once you start working with them and they're using design processes to solve operational problems, very much like we're doing service design for design organizations, or now, broader than that. I think they quickly learn that they can trust us and that we're one of them. So yeah, I think early on we might get some pushback, but we talk about design ops as being design. It's a form of design. So yeah, that's how we think about it.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was gonna say, we have a whole chapter in the book on this, which is like the different backgrounds that we see design operations practitioners come from. And the biggest one is design. And so it seems natural to us, given that so many of us are designers in the previous life, that design operations and design would go hand in hand. But it's also design program management. So we get a lot of program management backgrounds as well. But the people that we work with and the people that design ops practitioners work with, they see right away that we think like designers, we use the methods of designers. The only difference is the experiences that we're making are the experience of making, right? It's the processes, not the pixels. It's the people, not the product. But if you zoom out, we're all designers at heart. We're just operating in slightly different spaces that overlap.
So what would you say the design material is in this setting?
We talk about like people, process, and platform. So those are the kinds of experiences we're designing for. But I'll say, to your point, Lou, about people maybe who don't have design as a background, this book is for them too. We share design processes and how they can use, if you're in a program management background, but don't have a design background, we do have lots to learn here in this book, because there are people that come from those who don't have design backgrounds. So we do share specific frameworks from design strategy, from change management, and how you can apply those to operations.
When you were working on that chapter, were you also having to do a lot of translation? I mean, is there a benefit to helping DPMs become more accustomed, or PMs, program managers, with the vocabulary of design? Is that like half the battle for them is just to know the right language to use to communicate with designers?
We have a chapter in the book where we talk about how design ops is shaped in the context of different roles. And we try to think about all the different roles that our practice works with, from product managers to designers and engineers, technical program managers, marketing, creative writing, agencies, HR, finance. Like, we thought about all the different roles that we connect with. And it was really interesting to think about how we show up differently in the context of who those roles are. So it's less about necessarily like translating the role of design and design operations into a single language, but into multiple languages. We have to be multilingual because we are a practice that works horizontally and intersects all these different functions. So really understanding how we can work with different groups requires different ways of communicating with them, different value propositions, different ways of communication. Some groups need face-to-face, some groups need Slack, some groups need updates. So there's no one way that we show up and define design and design operations. There are many.
So I'd love to get into like, why now? Why a book now? I mean, we've been talking we've known about your work for a few years, but I know that we've been putting on at Rosenfeld the Design Ops Summit since 2017. The seventh one is that the eighth one is coming up in a couple weeks. You'll both be speaking at it, which is really great. But is design operations like settled business now? So it's ready for a book, or what's your thinking there? Why now?
Yeah, I think like we've spent the past, I don't know, now beyond 7 years sort of in the trenches as the design ops practice, and like experimenting, building the plane as you're flying it, as they say. And it's been a bit of like the Wild West out there. Like, I think like a lot of the sharing and learning that we've been doing with one another has been sort of grassroots, like through Rosenfeld's community and DesignOps Assembly community. But the practice has matured, and there isn't a book, there isn't a resource that we can point people to. It's grown a lot. And this will be the first book on design operations, dedicated to design operations. So there are a lot more people doing it now, especially since 2020. I think it really spiked this practice overall. Lots of people joined, lots of people are interested in it, lots of people wanted to hire for this role, and there wasn't a place to point them to learn about it, to hire for it, what it is. So that's what we wanted to do. This is just our perspective, though. This is two people, and we're just kind of like putting a stake in the ground of what we think good looks like right now. But there's lots of people doing amazing work, and we just wanted to kind of fill the gap and help share what we know, because it doesn't exist at the moment.
Do you feel that what you are covering, what you cover in the book in 2024, written 2023, 24, is for like a field or a practice that's in a different place than it was 5-7 years ago? In other words, like maybe if the book came out 5 years ago, it would be about building. And now maybe it's more about operating, design operations. Where do you think it lands? Is it something that I might want to read if I'm just starting out? Or is it something I might want to benefit from if I want to do a better job with existing roles in design operations?
Certainly, scaling design operations is a part of the story that we tell in this book. And when we started in 2020, it felt like that could be the whole story, because everybody was up and to the right. But design and design operations kind of tracks the stock market, right? And design ops practitioners hit hard times in 2022 and 2023, just like everybody else. And so the way we approached the book, going through that in real time, changed the story we told. We really wanted to not just talk about scale, but talk about sustainability of design operations. We saw so many new practices getting started that we knew we couldn't just talk about scale. We had to talk about how do you go from 0 to 1, right? What happens if you're that accidental DPM who's left over on the team after some other folks have been let go? What happens when you're the team that made it through the other end and you can see a bright light at the end of the tunnel? No, that's a terrible metaphor, but what happens when you see a bright spot on the horizon, right? And you know that there's going to be a better future out there. So we changed our approach to this book to cover all different life cycles in design operations, from the infancy to the teenage years to the tumultuous young adulthood of design operations, all the way to like middle age. And I think we're living through it right now. So we know that there's a lot more of the story that could be written. We're just living it right now. But we do talk about all these different things for all these different audiences, because it wasn't just us writing this book. We had a lot of people contribute to it. Some of them are experts in their field. Some of them are experts in other fields who just joined design operations a few years ago. So we got all these different perspectives of where people are in their journeys and where their companies are. And so it was really exciting to be able to come at it from so many different points of view.
Well, I think it's the book in a way is a good metaphor for the practice, in that you were essentially conductors not only of your own output, your own writing, but of all these conversations that you had with people who represent so many facets of the practice and the community more broadly. We're going to take a quick break. You are hearing from Rachel Posman and John Calhoun, authors of the forthcoming book, The Design Conductors, Your Essential Guide to Design Operations, and we'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browser interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld, and I'm here with Rachel Posman and John Calhoun. We're talking about their new book, The Design Conductors, Your Essential Guide to Design Operations, coming out in October of 2024. And I thought, given that I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to journeys in books as expressed by tables of contents and such things, I think you did a really wonderful job with that, folks. And maybe kind of can give us a little condensed version of what that journey is. If I'm a reader, where are you going to take me as we go through this book together?
Yeah, so I think this was actually a long process for us to land on this, but I think we're happy with where it did. So the first sort of half of the book, our first like 2 acts, I think, we call them acts, for musical reference, are about the fundamentals, the foundational aspects of design ops. So the fundamentals of what design ops is, why it's important, the fundamentals of how it fits into the broader landscape of design and landscape of organizations. So once we've established like the basics of what design ops is, why it's important, then we start to move into like the practical side of things. So that includes how to build, how to run, how to grow a design ops team. And then in that section, we're also getting really tactical and strategic around helping to share some strategies, methods, frameworks that have worked for us in showing the value of design ops and running design ops teams. So yeah, I think like as we mentioned before, our main thesis is that design ops is a form of design. So throughout, there's a steel thread of using design frameworks to both describe what design ops is and then to practice design ops.
And sort of in real time and living our own methodology, we converged and diverged our table of contents so many times. Like chapters got added, inserted, moved around, as one does when you're prototyping and experimenting to make sure that you land on the right solution for your audience. One of the things I really love about the fundamentals portion of our book is everyone's going to see a little bit of what they need in that part. The fundamentals of the practice, I think, are going to be really important for people who are just coming at it for the first time or are looking for a standardized definition that they can anchor on to have conversations about design operations. But then we also talk about the fundamentals of the practitioner. Like, who are we? Where do we come from? What are good career competencies for us? Like, how do you interview for this job? The fundamentals of our practice in context of those other roles I was talking about, right? And so, like, whether you practice design ops or you work with somebody who does, like, we want to make sure that those fundamentals were being spoken to from multiple points of view, because a little bit of it matters to a lot of people, but a lot of it matters to just a little bit of people. So there's a bit of something for everybody.
Well, obviously, and we've already covered this, or touched on it, that there's a strong musical metaphor here, and you've done such a great job of using it without overusing and abusing it. Like I love how you talk about your partners in the context of the chapter's called your performance partners. I love how you talk about the path from along the maturity ladder from soloist to symphony. And I really love the chapter that you call the wrong notes, where you're looking at some of the things that um, you may not be ready for. You might get wrong. And actually, I thought that'd be a good segue to another question that I'd like to cover, which is you've been in this field for a while. You've seen a lot of people practicing design operations. You've certainly interviewed a lot of them for the book. You've seen people at all points in their careers. What are some of the biggest errors that you're seeing people making right now as design ops professionals? Or maybe better phrase, are there big challenges and that you see again and again that you wish you could be there to give people advice so you could help them in that very moment?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think we're always trying to improve and work on, and something that took me a while to figure out, I'm still figuring it out, is that even though we've been around a while, DesignOps has been around a while, assuming that your design leaders, even though they hired you, or your design teams, even though they work with you, really see and understand the full value of what DesignOps does. So I think that because operations can sort of be invisible, especially if it's done well, um, they don't understand how much work it takes to do something. So something I'm often trying to do for my team and help my team do is work louder. I really I read a quote by Jared Spool, and he was talking about UX as a practice, but I think it very much relates to design ops too, which is that visibility is the most vital thing to be focusing on, and that you can't expect executives and stakeholders to invest in and prioritize your team's efforts without making your work visible. And that this is really a strategic initiative. Like if you want, if you want to grow your team, if you want to be working on bigger, more important things in design ops versus, very tactical things, I think like this is something that's really important to do. So we do have a chapter dedicated to measuring and showing the value of design ops specifically. So we have a couple of frameworks for doing that, but we also just say like beyond showing numbers, just making work visible and doing good work is really important. Maybe the best thing to do. So that people can recognize what you're doing.
So in that particular case, what are some good ways to really play loud?
Yeah, I think like not being shy about showing people and telling people your process or how long it takes, or you know, we say yes all the time, but like say no sometimes. You have to like put boundaries around your work because if you say yes to everything, then they think it's all easy and doable. But I think another way is really like to measure, like we said, and kind of report on your progress and on your work, and report out on that. So I've tried have various ways that we do like end of quarter reports for design ops and showing what we've worked on, both in like quantitative measures, and we also for every program we work on collect quotes, so sort of testimonials as you would from a customer. We collect those from our design team to show the value of the work that we're doing. So sharing those with leadership on a consistent drumbeat and sort of reporting our progress.
So it sounds like you're doing a bit of triangulation. You're doing the storytelling as conveyed by the testimonials, and you're doing the quant approach by focusing on metrics. Without giving away too much of what's in that chapter, what's a really powerful metric or two that you think people should have on their radars? For DesignOps, of course.
I think the point in the book that we're trying to make is that there aren't any specific metrics, but that there's frameworks to figure out what metrics are right for your org. So John has a great examples of using jobs to be done with a design team to identify what metrics are best to track based on design's success metrics. So what is DesignOps doing to help design achieve its goals? And so there's whatever design is trying to do, like what are those metrics? And then we have a framework that we created called Heroes, which each letter aligns to different metric types. So health, effectiveness, readiness, You can find out more in the book. And each of those have example metrics. But again, we don't want to be prescriptive about exactly which ones are right for your org. I think it's about figuring out what your org needs, and there's many you can choose from.
Fantastic. Well, obviously we've just scratched the surface here. I try to come up with a musical metaphor here for what we just did, but tip of the iceberg is not it either. We'll just leave it at that. There's a lot more in the book, but we just touched on a little bit here. And I'm really excited for it to come out. I'm really excited for people not only who are dyed-in-the-wool DesignOps practitioners to read it, but anyone who is trying to help designers and their ilk be more productive, to scale up their organizations. And so there's a pretty broad audience for what you've covered in the Design Conductors. So I'm really happy that you did the work, you did the writing, and that we get to get it out there. Before we wrap up, in Rosenfeld Review tradition, I would love to know what gifts you brought to our listeners today. Rachel.
Yeah, so I think this is probably, on everyone's radar by now, but it's a classic that I've been listening to for years now, which is 99% Invisible. It's a podcast. Roman Mars is the podcaster, and he looks at design in the built environment. So I really find a lot of inspiration and value in learning about designing for the human experience in the physical space. And it's just always really good.
It is. I'll just jump in and editorialize a little bit because, yes, it's well known, but what a lot of people may not know is that he's got a limited subset of podcasts that are essentially almost like a book club for The Power Broker by Robert Caro, which gets all into Robert Moses and the job he did to New York City. I say not with, but to, because we're still suffering, decades and decades later. I'll save that for another podcast. I could go on and on about that, but everyone should read The Power Broker or at least listen to the 99% Invisible series that's going on right now, I believe, covering it. It's really fantastic. John, what about you?
I think my gift to your audience would be Adam Grant, of all people. Not probably a surprise, but this is a guy that continues to just pop up in my zeitgeist in very joyful and unexpected ways. He recently co-hosted the Pivot podcast with Kara Swisher, and he shows up often in my Threads feed. Yes, I'm on Threads. I don't think there's many DesignOps people who are, but you can join me over there. And he shows up on LinkedIn. And one of the things that I love about Adam Grant is he's a great asker of questions. He just reminds me about the power of listening and going further, tell me more about that, or asking somebody to explain themselves or give an example. And whenever I come across Adam Grant, he reminds me that it's important to pause and listen and just ask more questions in my life, whether it's personal or professional. And you usually get better answers, better experiences, and just more joy out of life in general. So Adam Grant.
Note to self, study Adam Grant, at least before my next podcast. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Rachel Posman, John Calhoun, it's been a delight to have you on the podcast, and can't wait for your book to get out there.
Yeah, we're excited for folks to read it.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.